Hey guys, so I want to talk about the dynamic between the two traumatized people, adults in this world, the overly softened empath and the overly hardened narcissist, because I do have an understanding, like everyone here watching, that we are all one. But I do firmly believe now, through my own life experience and how it's cost me not to identify what my partners were and what my dad was. If I knew something wrong was with my dad for a long time, but particularly my partners and my exes, the not being able to identify what I was in when I was in with the relationship caused me a lot of pain. And I didn't learn the lesson from narcissistic abuse and being an overly softened empath. I mean, I'm doing my journey perfectly, but I didn't balance myself to a good space enough to. I repeated the lesson and I attracted three narcissistic exes in a row, three out of three. Three out of three seems to be the magic number for a lot of people actually dating narcissists before they get their lessons. There's powers in numbers, right? Um, and I did a post on Facebook about this. Like, it's important because narcissism, whilst unfortunate, and we choose these soul contracts, and often narcissism is either your parents send it down the gene code and or you get abused by your parents and that turns you into a narcissistic child that stays narcissistic in your soul level for the rest of your life until you get a narcissistic collapse. So it's a different curriculum. A narcissist has a different lesson and learning and teaching and curriculum here on all of our long ass journeys back to God over many lifetimes. The narcissist um, has, in my opinion, has a harder and a longer journey back to God because the narcissist is actually reliant on dating. The primary way a narcissist learns to humble itself in time and to get enough narcissistic injuries and enough pain to realize after a while that they're just repeating the same patterns with partner after partner. It comes and it all leads them towards a narcissistic collapse, but they are dependent on empaths because dating an overly softened empath that truly saw them and unconditionally loved them and forgave them endlessly, whilst the empath was switching off its switching off its intuition, being abused. It was being abused, gaslit, projected, and health conditions like mine can go down when you're dating a narcissist. You can feel like you're going crazy and it feels like a trauma bond, but then you'll deny it. And they'll repeat the same patterns. Idealization, when they love themselves, they love how you make them feel, and projection. And then when they start experiencing real love, that dissipates into devaluing you and they start hating themselves and project that out onto you and blame you for all the problems. And no human can ever sustain the perfection that a narcissist imposes on an empath partner. They expect perfection and an unrealistic journey where you're supposed to be this. They can see what you're going to become, but it takes time. And the only way they learn to love without control is when the empath either is discarded or is forced, like a reverse discard, is forced to discard the narcissist because the narcissist causes and actually creates all the problems in the first place in the relationship. And it drives the empath plays crazy. And the way to teach them, unfortunately, in this realm, or fortunately, I look at it as quite beautiful now and sacred, is to no contact, boundaries, and mean no contact, no matter if their child's dying, no matter if their mum's dying, no matter if they tell you love you years and months down the line. To truly care about that soul, which I'd like to think we all do if we were an empath of dated narcissists, we care about them. The only way to force them to see themselves in time, and it's not guaranteed in this life, is to take away the mirror. Because they rely on mirrors, they look at people as objects for their own selfish pride. They're inside their heads, they think they're above God. And one thing that narcissists love to do on Facebook that I've met, not just in relationships, but best friends, is they love to hide behind the empath label because no one wants to be labeled as a narcissist these days. It's not a good term. It is in somewhat demonic in their actions. I'm not saying they're demons, but they are somewhat the projection, the gaslighting, the lack of accountability that all fully gone narcissists possess is out fucking standing. So you can't grow in the relationship because they take no accountability for the things, the problems, for any of the problems they create because their brain can't allow it. because they have a very, very, very fragile ego. So it's a very hard time for narcissism. They have this false pride that makes their life easy, but in the quiet nights, they suffer and the guilt and shame of what they've done. Not in the conscious level, because in the conscious level, after these relationships, they make out the empath to be the victim, and they are the savior. They make out us to be the abuser, and they're the victim. But their subconscious knows, and the subconscious created by God never lies. And on the quiet nights, they reflect and they miss and crave what was once, and they can't understand where they lost control in the relationship. And there's no mirror. So that's how we teach them. And without labels, we're fucked, because I do posts like this on Facebook saying it's important to label narcissists and empaths. And people that I don't know very well will come on my posts sometimes and say, "Oh, everyone's a narcissist these days. I'm fed up of the label." Well, that is the genius of the evil system we've got. If you think everyone's a psychopath, everyone's a narcissist, then your narcissist radar is not right. You haven't dated. To date even just a few months with a narcissist and to live in that hell and know the tactics and the discard and the coldness, they move on from discarding you like you never existed and jump on to the next person, whether it be someone you knew that they isolated you from or just a random person, because they don't they do like a rebound, but in a really toxic way, because they can't face the guilt of what they've done and created. So they have to jump onto the next, love bombing and idealizing the next person so they can't see themselves consciously. So it's really important to label it. And I'm glad people in Facebook often, actually, I suspect, but I don't want to know, but I think the people that criticize my posts on narcissism versus empathy, the fact we have different curriculum and it's important to label, the people that don't like it and tell me they don't like it are often fully narcissistic themselves. And I've got to say, on my Facebook, full of spiritual people, at least 50% of people are fully narcissistic. Narcissistic people, maybe it's only 5-10% of the population, but that 5-10% tends to congregate to like 50% in the spiritual communities, because what draws an empath and a narcissist together is a common childhood trauma that we've been through. But one went through a hardening and one went through two softening. And the beautiful dance is that you, as an empath, you learn to care about a soul from a distance and know that you'll be reunited in heaven with them and everything's all good, everything's all love, but not here. Not here in this world. And the empath learns boundaries, learning that loving from a distance is a very real thing. It's not a spiritual bullshit thing, because that's how I feel with all my exes. I care about their souls, but I don't want to engage anymore and feed that behavior and that cycle again, which will only happen if you re-engage contact with them or feel sorry for them or offer to be their friend. No, they will be okay. You will be okay. All right. Peace.